Hello guys, it's a beautiful sunny morning, middle of August. My name's Idris Nawaz. I'm a young beekeeper with a crazy passion for honeybees, and hopefully today I'm going to be able to share some of that passion with you guys. Today we're at Broughton Primary School, and we're going to be doing an inspection of 4 hives. And with me is Mutassim, and he's going to be helping to video some of the content.
Hello.
As a quick summary, the idea of this inspection is that we're just making sure that the bees have enough room to make honey for the winter. Tassim, I think you'll be extra large. Gloves, large. That might be a big for you, but
This is my first time, guys. Well, I've seen these honeybees in the back garden.
But it's first time going into an actual hive.
This is my first time, actual hive. I have no experience about all the bees around me and whatnot, so it's lending me some good wellies so I don't get stung on the leg.
Yeah.
He might be subject to a few attacks that might get into his pants, he's been saying.
But the bees are very gentle. These are just extra precautions. The bees will only ever sting if you mess about with them, or you make a mistake, or if you go into the beehive, into their home in a bit of temperamental weather. So I've given Mutassim an extra large size suit.
But temperamental weather, you just mean like when it's sort of like more windy, raining and stuff?
Windy, rainy, yeah.
Okay. But generally they should be like kind of calm and whatnot.
Yeah, generally quite calm. So
I think
these suits are extra
especially me, is like I don't really know much about bees. Kind of sometimes think that they're gonna sting you. You said that's not really honeybees don't really sting.
No.
I'm more the wasps.
Yeah, honeybees. The best way sometimes to describe them, at most, is they'll might become a bit defensive. But the honeybees we keep, especially since we keep them on primary schools and high schools, we source them for their very, very gentle nature, and we try to keep them as naturally as possible. So sometimes I've even been into a hive without a suit on and I'm completely fine. But like I said, we put these suits on as extra precaution. I've given.
Is that the biggest size you have? Extra large?
Extra large. The
Do you have a large or anything?
Reason why I've given you extra large is
extra precaution.
Yeah, if a suit's more baggier or a bit more drapey, it's extra protection. Okay. Since it's your first time,
I see.
As protected as possible.
Oh, is this brand new as well?
Not brand new. Someone's worn it before.
Oh, I just got it nice and clean though for me.
If it's too big for you, we will get the large out.
Should be all right. Oh, how does one put this on?
You have to take the zip down.
Okay.
And then it's like a onesie basically, with the pajamas.
I've got to make sure some of the bees started flying around this. I'm not even next to the hive yet. So.
No, the bees are, a few bees flying around. And
so these will be from that hive, won't they?
Yeah.
Okay.
But they're flying around because there's a bit of honey residue on them frames and them boxes. So they can smell it from meters away.
So do I put my feet in, yeah?
Yep. Take your wellies off.
Take my wellies back off.
Right guys, I'm suited and booted. I'm in my beekeeping suit. I've not got my veil on just yet, but I'll put that on just before we go into the actual hives. Now I'm going to give you a quick rundown on what we're doing in today's inspection. It's middle of August. So the idea of today's inspection is to make sure that the bees are making enough honey for themselves for the winter and that they have enough space to do so. What we've got here is 3 what we beekeepers call super boxes. And all the super boxes, it's just a box which the bees make the honey in. Now inside each super box, or inside each honey box, is a set of 11 frames. Now I'll bring it a bit closer so you guys can get a bit of a better look at it. Now inside each of these wooden frames, which we put inside the super box, the bees make perfect hexagon comb all by themselves, right? And they do that all by themselves, master architects. And you might be wondering what these darker circles are inside some of these hexagon shapes. That's basically dry pollen, which hasn't come out during the honey harvesting process. So all we're going to do is we're going to take these frames, we're going to put them, a set of 11 frames in one of these wooden boxes, and if the hive needs more space to make honey, we will give them one of them boxes. And we'll go into a bit more detail on how to do that when we get down there. So we've just lit a smoker, guys. We're going to be using this for the inspections of the 4 hives. I about 250,000 bees altogether. I'd just like to apologise for the footage from here onwards, guys. This very annoying black thing which you see in the bottom of your screen is actually part of the tripod, which we hadn't noticed was in the shot until we reviewed the footage later. Basically, we didn't see it because of the glare on the screen, because of the sun. It was a very sunny day on that day. So all we've done is we've put a bit of shredded pieces of paper in, lit that with some matches, and then we've put ripped pieces of cardboard inside. You can now see the fire's going nice and strong. Once we've done that, I've had plenty of that in. I like to put some of these in, and all this is basically grass pellets. Can buy it from any pet shop. It's just dried up grass pellets, and all that does, it keeps the smoker going for a while, and it gives the smoker a lot of smoke. So I'm gonna go and put that in.
So what is the smoker used for? So when we're inspecting the bees,
Good question.
to kind of keep them quiet, or?
So when we go into inspect, usually the colonies are very, very gentle. But if one bee gets a bit agitated, that bee will release a pheromone called the alarm pheromone. And if the other bees sense it, what will happen is you'll get a mass number of bees, bear in mind there's 60,000 bees in there, getting agitated. So this smoker, and the most common theory is that the smoker stops that pheromone, it intercepts that pheromone reaching from one bee to the next. So you only get a few bees getting agitated. Another theory is the smoker keeps the bees calm because the bees think it's a wildfire, and they will quickly go inside the hive and gorge themselves on honey. When they do that, they naturally become a lot calmer. But like I said, the first one about it intercepting the pheromone is kind of the more accepted one. And then the last thing is, you see it's going very strong now, is we put a bit of grass in, and that'll get going like crazy. You can put pieces of wood in, pine in, all of them are wood shavings, and they get the smoker going for a lot longer. Unfortunately, we've kind of got to make use of what we've got today, which is paper, cardboard, a bit of grass pellets, and some pieces of grass. That'll get going for 10 to 20 minutes, and then if we have to relight it again, we will do.
Right, so I'll be ready to go start inspecting.
Now we're going. So I'm now just popping my veil on. Make sure we're fully zipped up. And then we pop our gloves on. My gloves are a bit grubby. A lot of beekeepers will use plastic gloves, disposable gloves. I use leather ones at this time of the year, but I make sure I have a special set of gloves for each location. So I'm not using the same gloves for multiple apiaries, and it's not going to spread disease. So this set of gloves...
Is that the main reason? So sort of stop the spread of diseases?
Yeah, that's one of the main... so if one apiary...
So you'll never use the same gloves on the site?
Oh, because otherwise you might risk a disease being transmitted. None of these hives, they've recently been inspected by a local inspector, but they've none of them have got diseases, but it's good practice. The gloves, even though they've just been washed or they've got a bit stained through propolis, that's completely normal. So after 1 or 2 more inspections, I'll give them a wash again, or use a brand new pair of leather gloves.
Sorry, what's propolis you said?
Propolis. So this, the stain on the gloves is a special glue which the bees make, and that glue is called propolis. Propolis is a super glue which the bees make from the resin of evergreen trees, and that propolis is not just a glue. It doesn't just stick all the parts of a hive together, but it's also anti-everything. It's antibacterial, antiviral, anti-everything. And so when the bees use the propolis, it serves for 2 purposes. It glues all the parts together so it doesn't get blown over by the wind, and it kills any pathogens and germs inside the actual hive. So the hive is actually an extremely hygienic unit. So that's propolis.
Pretty cool.
Right, we're now set to go. I'm going to walk down. We've got 4 hives on this site. We've got the first one here is a new colony. So it's a split from a mother colony which was packed, and we moved half of these into a new home, and then they formed a new separate colony and made their own queen, which we'll talk about later on how that exact process works. But you can see that's only got 1 box, and you can tell straight away they're a much smaller, weaker colony.
Much smaller compared to these 3, yeah.
Yep. The strongest one is this next one here. This is the
Okay.
strongest colony on this apiary. You can see the bees flying in and out. They're quite busy for a bit of a breezy day, so you can tell straight away they're quite strong. They have the brood box, which is where the queen lays all the brood, the larvae, the grubs.
Is that like the baby?
Yeah, it's the nursery. So
What does
that's
brood mean? Like
so the brood is when the queen lays an egg. That egg will hatch and turn to like a little grub, a little larvae, like a little bee caterpillar. The bees will then feed that, and the bees will then cap it. So it's literally it's wrapped up in like a tiny hexagon cocoon kind of type thing, and it will then hatch and form into a honeybee. So it's basically where all the baby bees are, where the queen is, where all the laying of the eggs happen. And the queen can lay up to about 2,000 eggs every single day in the summertime. So
2,000?
Yeah, 2,000. So
Crazy.
inside this brood box here, and the baby bees, they're called brood. So that's hence why it's called a brood box.
You're putting the queen to work, eh? 2,000 a day.
2,000 eggs a day.
Crazy.
So the brood box is the most precious part of a colony. So when we go into the brood box, we have to be very careful. We don't squash a single bee, and there's 60,000 bees in there. 60,000 bees inside this hive, and you would never be able to tell that just by looking at the entrance.
I think maybe like 100 or something.
Yeah, but there's 60,000 bees in there.
Crazy.
And when we go in, we can't squash a single one. Sometimes it's inevitable, sometimes by accident you might squash a few, but we try to do our utmost, take our time. We use a brush, we use the smoker, we're very careful, and if we cause the least amount of disturbance to the hive, the bees will remember that, and they'll be more gentle with us the next time we go in. So treat them with respect, and they will treat you with respect. Now, on top of a brood box, you've got these 2 other boxes, and they're what I mentioned earlier on. They're called super boxes, and super boxes are where the bees keep all the honey. So you've got the brood box at the bottom, where the bees fly in and out, all the brood, all the baby bees, the queens laying in there, and then the boxes on top is where the honey is stored.
So is this the entrance down here? Is this the only way they can get in?
That's the only way they can get in.
So they have to go through the nursery to get to where they make honey, is it?
Yep. So they climb up.
Got you.
So we're going to go on ahead and inspect this colony. So the first step is we're going to get our smoker, and a bit like a doorbell really, we're just going to smoke the entrance just very, very gently. We're not going to over smoke them, just slightly. And it acts as a bit of a doorbell, lets the bees know that we're coming in. And the bees will associate that smell of smoke over the course of a year, and they will know, oh, the last time we smelled that smoke, a beekeeper came in and inspected us, and they were very gentle, so we don't have to worry this time. And that's how
very
good
clever,
their
aren't they?
memories are.
Like
They're
able to
absolutely
remember the smells, and it's crazy.
So I'm just going to pop the smoker down over there. You then have the roof. This is the roof. Under the roof is a wooden board which we call the crown board. It's called the crown board because it's a board which goes on the top like a crown. Now, when I open that crown board up, the hive is effectively opened, and the bees inside each hive keep the temperature of the hive about 34 degrees exact.
34 degrees.
When we open up the hive, it's going to take the bees 4 days to re-establish the exact temperature, the exact humidity, the exact everything again. So that's why we try not to go into the colonies that often. So to minimize disturbance to the bees, what I'm going to do is I'm going to lift the honey boxes straight off, and I'm going to place them on the roof, so all the bees in the honey boxes still feel like they're inside the hive and they've not been opened. And I'm going to have a quick check of the brood box.
So is it always best to start with the brood box?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
And this way it starts to get a bit wild.
and the bees make that propolis stuff which I mentioned earlier, hence why it's glued tight.
Oh, so it's like glued together.
Yeah, you have to really wedge the boxes open. So we use something called a hive tool. It's not sharp like a knife, but it's got a fairly sharp end. And all you do is you pop it in between the boxes and you leave the boxes open. Without it, or without a knife, it's impossible to lift the boxes off each other. Right, now that hive's now open. The bees know we're coming in. And I can already tell straight away that these two boxes are full packed of honey because they've got a really heavy weight to them. I'll barely be able to lift them.
Have you got the gains? Let's see. So are you gonna be taking these away to harvest, or?
Yeah, so at least one of these boxes we'll take away to harvest, maybe 1.5.
Let's get a look at.
You can see now the hive is now open. This white mesh here, this is what we call a queen excluder. And what a queen excluder is, it stops the queen from coming up from the brood box into the honey boxes. And that means we know the queen's definitely in the bottom box, so we don't have to search the whole hive for her. And it also means that the top boxes are just purely honey. So it's easier for us to harvest, and it causes less disturbance to the bees. The bees are very, very calm today, so far. And these are all nurse bees.
Nurse bees, so they're the one that like look after the young.
Yeah, so bees only live for about 6 weeks.
Only live for about 6 weeks?
6 weeks, yeah. And the first 3 weeks of their life, they stay inside the hive, and they're what we call nurse bees. So they do all the type of jobs which are needed to do inside the hive. Make the honey, look after the larvae, keep the temperature stable, look after the queen, build the wax. They do all of that. So as you can see now, I'm moving very slowly and very carefully because we don't want to squash a single one. Right, inside here,
I've got
we
a
now
question.
have...
So, will this have honey in it, or will it just have like the, is it the brood?
Yeah, so this will have a mixture of everything really. So honey...
So do you ever harvest these, or?
No, we never ever harvest the honey
Okay.
from the brood box. Whatever's
Right.
honey in here is for them. And we always make sure we leave honey for them in the top honey boxes, a bit of it, at all times. You can see this is a very strong colony. And absolutely packed full of bees. So I'm going to go on ahead and just...
I had another question as well. So you mentioned so this is like the nurse bees. I know you mentioned like scouting bees before. How do like they determine the job roles? Like
Yes.
in the anatomy that's different, or is it? I don't know.
So the job role, so how they determine that is all dependent on their age.
Okay.
So when they first hatch, they're cleaners.
Right.
So their job is to clean the hive. After about a few days, they then become, their job is then to look after the queen. And then after about a week or so, they then look after all the larvae, all the grubs. Now here we have a mixture of things. We have honey. If I just scrape some of that off, you can see the honey dripping off. So that's pure honey, that. The bees will repair that very quickly. Within 5-10 minutes they'll repair that.
What's the stuff on top of the honey here?
So the bees, when they fill the hexagons with honey, they cap it. And the reason they cap it, if they didn't, the honey would drip everywhere.
Oh, like it is now?
Yeah, like it is now. But the bees are cleaning it out now.
These are clever, man. Different.
The
Yeah,
different
crazy.
level. Now in the center, we have, if you look in this cell here,
This bee's got like something on its.
pollen.
Okay.
So that is pollen. So it's basically like the bee's shopping basket. So they will go
Sound
to
like
a
their
flower.
legs or something.
Yeah, they will collect the pollen which they need for the hive, and they will put it on their back legs. And pollen comes in different colors. It can be green, it can be white from Himalayan balsam, for example.
Are these wasps here?
Yeah, these are wasps inside the colony.
What's he doing? He's trying to munch.
Yeah, he's trying to steal some of the honey. And off we go, off we go. So now this here, this is all brood capping. So inside each one of these hexagon cap cells, and that
Someone
there,
trying to hatch that?
that's a bee hatching for the first time. So the bees will, it'll be an egg, it'll hatch into a larvae, which is inside this cell here.
Does it take a long time to hatch? Should we record this and we'll get them?
It'll take about 10-15 minutes to hatch.
It's a bit of a while.
It's a bit of a while, but you can see it's poking its head for the first time.
Okay, so he's gonna come out and he's gonna start cleaning
Yeah, you
and
can
stuff.
see he's coming out now actually. He's actually hatching very quickly. He's covered in white. They're very, very furry when they first come out.
So how will he know like his job's to clean? Some of the bee gonna go tell him, or
No, they know automatically.
they just know.
They just know.
Smile like that.
Just know. There's another bee hatching here. If you look very carefully as well here, you can see like a white type coiled type worm, or maybe like a white type blob. That's a larvae.
So that's not being like capped over yet.
No, that's like a white caterpillar which gets served breakfast, lunch and dinner in bed. The bees will feed it.
They live in the high life.
Living high life, and they will then get capped like that and effectively then wrapped in beeswax, and they will then hatch. It takes a worker bee from the moment the queen lays the egg to the moment it hatches, about 3 weeks. You can see a huge cluster here. So whilst I'm doing this, I'm also looking for the queen at the same time.
Why are we looking for the queen? Why is the queen important?
So there's only one queen in the entire colony, and if she dies at this time of the year,
so she's laid all these bees.
She's laid all these bees. These are all offspring
So what,
of
like
one queen.
So she's done 60k.
And she does more than six. Any one given time in the summer months, there's 60,000 bees. So she lays
But all these bees, they've come from one queen.
one queen.
And is there like one king or something?
No, the king is what we call a drone.
Drone.
He's a male bee, but there's a few hundred drones in a hive.
Also,
And-
everyone's just getting at the queen.
Yeah, so the queen so basically the queen, she will lay worker bees, these girls, they're all female, they're all girls. And she'll also lay male bees, which are drones. And the drones, let me see if I can get this drone up on my, it's a bit fast this one. The drones are slightly bulky, you can see that one there. That's the drone. And
These ones that were like
they're all
like
offspring.
turn on, but they're like impregnate the queen, is it?
Yeah, but they won't impregnate their mother. They will impregnate queens from other hives.
Okay.
So once they've been fed and they've matured,
Yeah, they
they
do
will
look a bit
leave.
more chunky, don't they?
Yeah, they will leave the hive like they've gone to the gym, lifted some weights, pumped some iron. They'll leave the hive, and they will then go into these big mating areas, and they will.
So they don't mate in the actual boxes and that.
No, they mate in the sky, and you have a
What,
few hundred
like flying.
flying. Yeah,
Crazy.
So the drones, a few hundred of them, will fly round and round in a big kind of congregation area high up in the sky. And when a virgin queen comes, she will fly straight through the center of them and try to fly away from them. And the fastest, strongest drone will catch her. So only the fastest drone will be able to catch her.
The sperm and the egg, the fastest sperm.
So
wins the race. So whoever's faster, really.
Whoever's faster, exactly, yeah. So
see.
the fastest drone, so it's the best, strongest genetics, that's what the queen's going to get. And the drone will then mate with the queen in midair. And once the drone's mated, he will die straight away. So the drone doesn't even have a stinger, so you can lift the drone up, put it on your face, or even if it's scared, it can't sting you, it's like a fly. And they can't feed themselves either. All the worker bees, which are female, classified as female, they have to feed the male bees, the drones. And when their time comes, they get mated with another queen, and that's their life.
Right. So have you inspected this top one? Has it been? What are we doing now? We're looking for the queen, you said.
So we're We don't necessarily need to see the queen at this time of year, because we've seen eggs which are kind of too small, unfortunately, to be caught on camera. They can be seen with your eyes, but on a nice sunny day and held up to the sun.
Like that white grain. Some people kind it's very small grain of rice.
Exactly, yeah. It's like a
Yeah.
small rice grain at the center, at the bottom of the cell. Unfortunately, I don't want to be able to catch it on this camera, but I have seen the eggs, and I've also seen white larvae on that frame which I've just shown you, which means that there's been a queen in the past day laying. So at this time of year, that's good enough for me, really. And then because it's the 20th of August or thereabouts, the bees aren't really going to swarm. There have been cases where bees have swarmed in August, but it's very, very unlikely. This colony is incredibly strong though, so I'm just giving it a quick check for queen cells.
What's a queen cell?
So if a colony packs the space, like this one has, they will make queen cells, and them queen cells are basically new queens. And then the old queen will leave with half the bees. So if you think about it, that's 30,000 bees leaving a hive, and they will swarm out. You can see here.
And that's why they just go on like a random tree or something nearby.
Yeah, they cluster on a tree, and that's a swarm basically, and beekeepers then have to catch it. But the swarming season is actually May, June, July. And now because it's August, even though they're packed, there's still not a very, very high chance that they're going to be. It's very unlikely.
Aren't gonna swarm.
Yeah, even though if this was during May time, I would definitely be concerned that there's going to be queen cells. But you can see this is an incredibly strong colony. The whole frame is just capped off with brood. So that whole frame, in about one or two weeks.
This one, a drone here, he's very chunky.
Very chunky, yeah.
Is that a drone?
It's a drone, yep.
Excuse me.
Just been very careful. These have been very well behaved today. But you can see it's just packed through.
Have you found any queen cells?
No queen cells. I'm now going to speed up the inspection slightly, because we have had them opened up longer than I usually have them opened up for. Just double checking that there's no queen cells. And we are going to put an empty super on, which at this time of year should be more than enough to stop them from reduce any urge for them to swarm. So these are empty blank frames, which I'm going to replace the honey frames with. Now the most common way to harvest honey is to put what beekeepers call a clearing board. And then it basically is like a one-way system. So the bees in the honey boxes, when they go through that clearing board, they can't get back up to it.
Is that a clearing board?
No, it is a clearing board, that, yeah. So on the top here,
that's the one-way system thing, isn't it?
One-way system. So if you put that on top of a brood box and these honey boxes on top of that, the bees would only be able to go down but not back up. So after
Nobody's really come out of here, have they?
No, that's it. That's why we go straight into the brood box, and all half the bees which are still in here still think they're closed up. So it minimises disturbance to the hive.
Yeah,
That makes sense.
Careful.
Hopefully. So so yeah, and then after 1 or 2 days,
you've inspected this now. It's all looking good in there. Yeah. So we've got what do you call it? Healthy brood box. They're all back in there, sort of thing. So now what we're doing? So we're going to start harvesting this honey, or?
Yeah, that's it. So what we're going to do is because today I'm not going to be using a clearing board. I'm going to actually harvest the honey, get the frames from the bees right here, right now. So we're going to do a slightly different method. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take each individual frame out, or honey frame. If it's capped, I will then walk it down and put it into an empty box a few meters down that way. And then I'll keep doing that, and then I'll put the blank frames in that box and put the blank frames back on the hive. So we're taking the frames right here, right now. The other way, like I mentioned before, is to use a clearing board, and then you wait about a day or so, and then when you come back, the bees, there won't be any bees in that box, so you can just take the box off the hive, but with no bee suit on even. But like I said, for various reasons, we're going to try and harvest the honey right here, right now. But I have to move them down a few meters because the bees are going to basically try to chase the honey and find it and take it back again. So I'm going to use this brush to brush the bees off. And you can see why we kind of went straight into the brood box, because all these bees, by doing it that way, haven't been disturbed yet until now. So rather than going from the top and then each box from the top down,
So now we're just taking the frames filled with honey and replacing them with empty frames. I did plan on showing you the rest of the hives, however, unfortunately, the battery on the camera ended up dying. That's how modern technology kind of goes, unfortunately. However, be on the lookout for part 2, where we will be showing you how we harvest the honey and jar it. Thanks for watching and see you in the next one.